Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
My name is Darryl Coates. I am the Land and Facilities Manager here at Hermann Farm. This farm represents early history of Hermann, Missouri, specifically focusing on George Husmann. George was born in Germany in 1827. George and his family moved to the United States in the early 1830s, came in through the New York area and settled in Pennsylvania. His father, Martin Husmann, brought 4 children, the oldest being Frederick. We also called him Fritz. He had 2 daughters, Joanna and Josephine. And then the youngest son, which was George Husmann, and this is a picture of him right here. We celebrate George because he was considered the first viticulturist in Missouri. He also did a tremendous amount of good in the wine industry while he was in the United States. Plus, he assisted Europe in their blight of 1860 when they had a disease come into the plants, and it killed the roots of the plants that were over in Europe. And George knew that Missouri plants were resistant to this particular disease, and so he called his friends and neighbors and collected almost 10 million roots, put them on a boat, and went over to Europe and showed the French how to graft American rootstock onto their native plants. And that's why France still has good grapes today. Today, even in Europe, most grapes are grown on Missouri rootstock. The area of Hermann is basically, it's very adult oriented. We have wineries and breweries, and so we have a lot of that in Hermann, and that's mainly focused on the clientele that are coming. What we hope to do with the farm is invite a younger crowd to create an opportunity, an educational center that will also bring in the younger families.
Hello, my name is Darryl Coates, and I am the farm manager here at Hermann Farm. Welcome to the Hermann Farm and Museum. This building is actually an original corn crib that was taken from around Hermann. We added an extra large roof, and this building is now what we call the demonstration site. The demonstration site has 4 compartments. We have a carpenter shop, the Deitzel Tinsmith Shop. Now, Mr. Deitzel was a tinkerer in Hermann for a number of years, and the museum purchased his entire shop, and we have his original table in there with all of the equipment he had. Upstairs, we have a broom factory as well as a rope making area. And on special event days, we'll actually have demonstrators here on the farm. We also have different stages of the broom making. This is, as it begins, this is a loose. The first part's already put on here, and then eventually you bring it over here and you put the band on it, place it in the press, tighten that up. Then you wrap your cord around it, your string. You got to make 3 circles, and then you begin to sew with a needle. You've got to wrap it 3 times around this, and then you sew it with a needle like this one. And basically you come in from underneath, that goes through, and it comes, you do figure 8s around to make your broom, tighten your broom. This happens to be what we call a ceiling broom as opposed to a floor broom. We have a hearth broom, whisk broom, cobweb broom. And these are seeds, and this removes strips them. Nice. So you can collect your broom corn seed.
Sure, yeah. And then there's the shears to cut off the end.
Yep, cut it level. And that's usually when you finish the broom. Yep. All these products on the table is what you would find in a made by a tinsmith. This is probably one of the most, this is his best, the candle. This is a lantern that has. The German four-square garden was a common sight to see here in Hermann. Typically there were 4 compartments, each having their own particular use. One compartment was used for medicinal plants. One compartment was used for herbs for the kitchen. One compartment was used for dye plants, and the last compartment was used for any other vegetables that the family would like to grow. According to some of the records that I've read, families would plant as many as 100 head of cabbage per family member. So you would have a family of 4 may plant up to 400 cabbages in the spring. In this garden this year, we mainly put in vegetables. We do have a few plants that coexist that actually help control pests. We try not to use pesticides on this garden, although we do have some cabbage worms that have come in and taken a few bites of our brassicas, but for the most part, our marigolds have controlled a lot of the problem bugs. This is the early 1800s, could have been 1803. This is what we call the trading post. The trading post was owned by Polly Phillips. Polly Phillips was said to have been married to a French Indian man, and Polly ran a post, a trading post right outside Hermann. This is a traditional dog trot type building. It has 2 compartments with 1 single roof. It has that French style notching on the ends, the gable ends. The trading post is on this side. This building at one time is where the original post office of Hermann sat. We actually excavated that building and have the original post office door from that building in here. The other side is what I call the tavern side of it. The tavern was used as a place to stay. It wasn't a place to drink. It was actually more like a place to overwinter, so that when you came off the boat, at least you had some place to stay while you were preparing your home site. And it allowed you to get through the winter and protect yourself from any wild animals, or even weather was quite a factor. Even in Missouri, we have snow, and you can see by the sleds, these are actually Hermann sleds. If you notice that this is one board, I don't know if you looked at this, but it's actually one solid piece of board to make up this side of the sled, and the other side looks the same. This is a fantastic old sled with the wooden runners, and it's got a steel skid plate on the bottom, horse-drawn. We have an old buckboard out here, an Adams wagon. This is actually a Hudson Bay blanket. It's a 300-year-old blanket. It has the Hudson Bay silk tag on it from England. This was a very popular trading item by Polly Phillips. This is actually one of the first UPCs, and I'm just kidding on that. UPC tells you the price, and each one of these stripes represents the number of beaver pelts it takes to purchase this particular blanket. Now, the Osage Indians of this area absolutely love this candy stripe blanket, and this was a very common purchase. It took 4 beaver pelts, and this is a nice example of a beaver pelt that would be traded. So it would take 4 beaver pelts to purchase this one Hudson Bay blanket. They're actually stretched this way, but this is how the pelt comes out. And so they were used quite a lot. They also used the scent gland out of this is Castor canadensis, and the castor oil was used to soothe sore throats. You would mix a little sugar in with kerosene and castor oil to make the kids' throats better. Not that it worked, I just think that it was tasted so nasty you'd never had another sore throat in the world. Typically the table would be outside. Families would come in here. They may sleep 3 or 4 families in this particular area. Jim and Mary are exceptionally, they love furniture. They love collecting furniture. And the cabinet that you see here next to you is a Swiss cabinet. It's not made, and it's made in the town of Swiss, which is about 18 miles south of Hermann. It's known for the diamond patterns on the doors and drawers. This is an extremely early piece. One of the features of this cabinet shop was to put square pegs to tie the sides in with the face of the they call it stiles, I think. They also pinned this is a mortise and tenon joint pinned with 3 round pegs on the door, and then the drawer has the sideways diamonds. This is a pretty common feature, and you'll see this a lot here. Mary and Jim have collected furniture for over 61 years, and these are their own personal items. They personally own these and have now they're on display in the museum. This chair is actually manufactured by a free African American
freed slave.
Free man, yeah. He made these finials. They're very delicate finials. And then he also made this is a feature, this kind of looks like a upside down acorn on the top of his, this particular chair. And then he caned, we have 3 of these on the farm, and I'll point those out. And I'm not exactly sure of the carpenter's name, but I know that he was one of the few freed black males, and this was his style of, and color. He used this, was quite common, and we know that to be kind of his thumbprint signature for making cane chairs. The really neat part about this particular sled is that it is actually from Hermann. It actually says Hermann, Missouri. So we know that this was manufactured and painted and sold here in Hermann. Mules and draft horses were used quite extensively during the agricultural industrial revolution, and then, you know, after the 1920s, after the turn of the century, draft horses basically became less and less used as tractors took over. But the coal miners continued to sell animals well into First World War. This is Pat and Jane. They're 16-year-old Pertron mules. Their father was a donkey and their mother was a Pertron draft horse. She was white, and or a gray mare. And these guys happen to be, these Jennies, these girls happen to be named Pat and Jane. And like I said, they're about 16 years old. They belong to Joy Kohlmeyer and their family. And when we bought the farm, Pat and Jane stayed with us. We bought the farm about 10 years ago. So I'm a big proponent of working with animals. You know, they're a lot friendlier than an old tractor. There's a little more work to them because you gotta, you know, cool them down and feed them and water them, but it's the only piece of farm equipment can reproduce itself. The Kohlmeyer barn was originally built by the Kohlmeyer family after the Civil War. This is a loose hay barn. It does have a complete rail. The hay is brought in underneath, picked up, and then distributed across the barn. We're in the hay loft. That's a chicken egg crate maker. You put your stays in there, and it's kind of like a form, and you put everything together and nail it, and it kind of holds it for you while you're. This is an old hickory bow chopper. This actually hooked to the rope, and then it helped you chop.
Yep. A harness repair vise.
Yeah.
A bunch of them.
Because Mr. Teubner was a cobbler.
Oh, really?
Before he came to here in Missouri and became a nurseryman. So we brought this in as it's a cobbler's bench, kind of tie in that. When you have the flocks, you have to use a flox brake
To smash it.
to break the fibers,
Right.
and then you,
Tear it apart.
what they call scatching, you actually take and wrap it around your hand and you pull it until you get the loose materials, and then you start using different size hackles, and then start heckling.
Okay.
This is flax.
Yeah.
And then we have a flax break over there. And then it's a carding tool for cotton.
Uh-huh.
This is cotton plant
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
cotton carding. And then this is different size hackles. You start with the coarse, and then you move to the fine, and it breaks the. And then this is a flax carding tool. So you kind of rock that back and forth.
For getting the for plant for seed potatoes.
Yeah, seed potatoes.
Nice.
Cut your seed potatoes.
Yep. Very nice.
A machine for everything.
Yeah.
And this is a little garden. This is a garden harrow,
Right.
and then this is a larger. The spikes,
Yep.
the wooden spikes are not in there anymore,
Right.
but so a primitive
nice.
ox harrow. They are fifth wheel. It's not that they have 5 wheels. It's just that the front axle can actually turn 180 degrees. It can be pulled with either a single or a double. We usually drive them with a double just because the wagons are so heavy themselves. Draft horses weigh about 2,000 pounds and they can haul about 6 times their weight in pulling with wheels. On a sled, they don't pull quite as much because it's too much friction. But these actually are changed the height. Your pot hangs here, and then you adjust it high, medium, low. So that's high, and then you have the opportunity. So you just take probably a fork or something, pick that up, and lower your pot, so you can actually just adjust your temperature. And this one has a little more, more settings. And you also had like this was for your spoon. You would have, you'd have a spoon, and so you'd hang it up here. So that went to that pot, and the spoon actually drips into the pot, and so you can pick it up safely without getting burned, and then you hang it just there, or up here away from your fire, or on your. So, and then you would do hearth cooking. You would bring coals out. These aren't, and you would cook your eggs and bacon probably out on the hearth. This is a coal harvester. You could dig in your coals and pull out the hot coals. This is a reflector. The lady would sit on her chair, and this would reflect the heat back into the stove. You could stand in front of that and kind of be protected a little bit. Had to be hot work. Our season runs from May 21st. We open on MyFest weekend. MyFest is actually a celebration of getting out of school. And so we are open on the May 21st. That's our opening day every year. And then we end on October 31st on Halloween. We're closed from November 1st till May 20th. We are open Wednesday through Sunday, 12:30 to 4 p.m., with our last tickets being sold at 3 p.m. Tours take about 2.5 hours. On Saturday, we have extended hours from 10 a.m. to 4, and we're closed Monday and Tuesday. Ticket prices are $18 for adults and $9 for children. It's well worth the value. I mean, the 2-hour tour, 2.5-hour tour. If I'm doing it, it's a 3-hour tour, as I really enjoy history. So.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.